So let's take a little look at how the rules and connectivity in your network can be applied as you work with your data. My job here is to update the records with the service connection that I've just added. And as you'll see, I've already dropped the service point onto the map. Now I'd like to add a connection from that point onto the rest of the network. So to get started, I'm going to select my service point, and I've got immediate access to the network information. Now, of course, this isn't connected yet, but also the rules which guide me on how I can connect this to the rest of the network. And I know that I need to add a conductor, so I'm going to pick the underground conductor and choose to create a new one. The snapping points are here to guide me and show me where my connection can be added, and all I have to do here is add that, and all the snapping happens for me. And that is my connection complete. But there's one thing especially that I'd like to show you here. When I added that conductor in, and it knew automatically what the valid connections would be, and it honours all the rules in my utility network. So for example, this low voltage conductor can only be connected to the low voltage side of my transformer, and that's what the editor has done for me automatically. Now that I have my connection, I'd just like to take a look at how I've updated the network in a little bit more detail. So I'm just going to tidy things up a little bit here. And there we go. Starting with my service connection. Of course, I can see all the features that it's connected to, but I can also look at this graphically. So my service comes through the conductor and goes up to the transformer. And you can see these features being highlighted on the map. But I can also expand them. So if I'm interested in the route from the transformer, I can expand that feature, and my graphical view updates itself. And I can see the features that the transformer itself connects to. So I can see the other service connection, and also I can see how this transformer is being supplied, and I can expand that as well. So I can go back upstream and start understanding the route through the network that I've been taking. So I can choose these features again and expand those. And what you'll notice on the map is that the route that I'm taking is being highlighted on the map for me as I go. So if I expand these, I'll be able to make my way back to the end point of this section of the network. And that's a really useful way for me to understand the connectivity as I'm working with the network. But of course, I might want to go beyond that. So what I'd like to do now is actually start tracing my network in more detail. So I'm going to clear my selection. I'm going to quickly update my network edits back to the server. And now I'm ready to run a trace on the network. So to do that, I have to start by telling the editor where I want to start my trace. So I'm going to put my starting point down, and this will let me choose a point on the network. And when I look at the trace tab, I can see the feature that I've chosen to trace from, and I can also choose a type of trace that I would like to run. In this case, I'm going to do an upstream trace. And now I'm just going to run that. So the utility network editor is sending that trace request to the utility network, and you can see it's come back with a selection set of the 200 features that are upstream of this in the network. And I can zoom out and I can see the route of that part of the network. And here I can see the route from where I started all the way back upstream to the substation that supplies this feeder. And I can have a look closer in at the substation now that I've located my route. And here I can see the path that I come in to be supplied from this substation. And as I zoom in to the substation, of course, I'm probably wondering about the features and the assets that are inside this substation in a bit more detail. So these have been hidden through containment, which is part of the utility network. And if I want to see them, I can just ask to see the contained features. And if I zoom closer in again, of course, I'll see parts of the network where the connectivity is actually recorded through associations. And if I want to understand that, I can turn that on as well. So I've got full access to all the connectivity information in my network. Of course, as well as simply knowing the route back upstream through the network, I might be interested in finding out a bit more about the features and the assets that are part of that section of the network. So I'm just going to go back to the overall view for context, so we can remember the route that we've taken. And what I'd like to do at this point is find out a bit more about the devices that were actually upstream from the point of the network where I made my change. And I can actually generate a report. Now this is fully configurable, so it's just a simple example here of reporting on the features that were selected as part of that trace. And in use, you may want to use this to generate reports for field crews or for customer services to contact customers, or for asset reports. And this report can be generated here and exported as well. There's another way that the utility network lets us understand our network's connectivity. So let's take a look at how we would work with network diagrams. Now we're looking at the substation that we traced to from our new service connection. And I'm just going to open the network diagrams view. And this lets me generate a new diagram, but it also knows that in the extent where I am inside the substation, there's an existing stored diagram. So let's open that and have a look. Now it's retrieved the stored diagram for the substation, and I can zoom into this, and I can start to pan around and understand the network diagram representation of this substation. And that might be very useful to me if I'm an engineer who needs to understand connectivity within a substation. And even more importantly, I might want to be able to relate features in my network diagram with the assets I can see on the map. So if I make a selection here in the diagram, the same feature is selected on the map and vice versa. So I can really start to understand the connectivity in my network.